Hello friends and welcome back to Purus Tech Java tutorials. In this session we are going to learn about the constructor of a Java class. So why the constructor is being used and what is the purpose of constructor. In the last session we had seen the types of variables, that is instance variables, static variables and the method variables. So let's see how we can uh, initialize this variables using constructor. So let's first define what is a constructor. So constructor is used to initialize the instance variable, or you can say the state of the object. So let's say this is the rectangle class. Whenever I'm creating one rectangle object, that is here, let's say green rectangle, and if I wanted to initialize this particular two states, means length and width, during the object creation, that time only I wanted to initialize these two variables. Like in the last session, what we had done, after object creation, I am just setting the length and width. So this happens after the object creation. So what if you want to initialize these two variables or this state of the object during the object creation? So that time the answer will become the constructor. Use the constructor to initialize the state of the object. So let's modify this class to use the constructor. Let's remove this. It's not required. Now let's remove this unnecessary space. Let's remove this also. Let's remove all this setter and getter for length and width, which I'm going to initialize with the help of constructor. Let's delete all this. I wanted to print the area of green and blue and purple rectangle. Okay. Now, what how to define the constructor? Constructor should not have any return type. So it will look like a method only, but it doesn't have any return type. Okay, let's define. So constructor name should be the same as the class name. So let's write the constructor here, rectangle, and it follows this syntax. The constructor name should be the same as the class name, and here it is not taking any arguments. So you can have multiple constructors in a class, and this is no argument constructor since it is not taking any argument. And if you define some arguments like this inside the constructor, then it will become parameterized constructor. Let's put here system.out.println inside constructor. Okay, see, now we have defined a non-parameterized constructor. So the object will get created without initializing these two variables. So it won't initialize, it will have the default values whenever the object is getting created. Let's try to run this program and see what will be the output. Okay, here we have got the output. See, area of the green rectangle is 0, everything it is coming as 0. Since the default value of length and width will be 0. So again, there is some concept of default values for an instance variable, even for the static variable also. So based on your data type, it will initialize to the default values. For example, here it is the integer type of variable and it is initialized with 0 by default. So if we'll just say here equal to 0, it will be the same. Okay, so let's remove as of now this one, since it is by default it is giving 0 values. Let's see what is happening here. So whenever I'm calling this new operator to create an object, this particular, if you see here, inside constructor is getting called. So the constructor gets called whenever you are doing a new operator on the class, or you are creating a object of the class. So let's change this default constructor to a parameterized constructor so that we can initialize this length and width for these different kind of rectangles. I'll take integer length, integer width. So now it has become a parameterized constructor. I have to pass the values. Let's say, for example, length is 5 and width is 2. Here 6 and 3, 7 and 4. Okay. Now what will happen? Whenever an object is getting created, it will pass these two values to the constructor here. Okay. After this is getting passed, what we need to do, we need to assign these two values. So there is a concept called this. So this represents here whichever object we are going to create. So you need to write this dot length equal to length, width equal to width. So now as you can see, length and width here, the right side of operands are the local variables, and this dot length and this dot width is the instance variable. See, it has the different color convention. So instead of writing like this, we can write a simple thing like L and W, let's say. Okay, here let me write L and W. Okay, that's it. So now whenever I'm creating an object of green rectangle, it will pass 5 and 2 to this length and width. So it will initialize this length to 5 and this width to 2 whenever green rectangle is getting created. Now for the blue rectangle, it is 6 and the width will be 3. Now let's try to run this program. Okay, here is the output. As you can see, we are creating 3 objects. So 3 times constructor is getting called. For each object, constructor is getting called and it is getting printed, and the corresponding values like length and width is assigned. And here is the output. If you see, area of the green rectangle is 5 into 2, 10, and 18 for the blue, and the 28 is for the purple one. Now you are seeing this is a parameterized constructor, and by default Java includes, okay, by default Java compiler includes a non-parameterized constructor whether you are writing or you are not writing by yourself like this. Okay, like this it writes or it adds. The compiler add by itself. Okay, I hope this is clear to you. So in the next session, we are going to cover the types of operator in Java, and will bit cover some of the operator which is mostly used during the programming. And thanks for watching this video. Stay tuned.